I am looking at the live thermal telemetry from 3 major water treatment facilities in the American Midwest right now, and what I'm seeing should have every single person in this country reaching for their emergency kits. The digital tripwire hasn't just been touched, it's been severed. At 4:17 Universal Time Coordinated today, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency officials confirmed a series of unauthorized intrusions into supervisory control and data acquisition systems across 12 states. This is the first time since the onset of the 2026 conflict that we have seen a coordinated, multi-vector assault on the literal lifeblood of American civil society. This matters because we are no longer talking about stolen emails or leaked credit card numbers. We are talking about the Blackout Protocol, a terrifyingly narrow 14-minute window between the initial breach and total mechanical failure of critical cooling systems. The silent actor behind this escalation has been identified as the Handala Hacking Collective, a group with deep, documented ties to the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. For months, they have been laying the groundwork, and now the digital kill chain is being activated in real time. This isn't just a military headache. It is an unpriced risk that targets your bank account and the very water coming out of your kitchen tap. When the history of this war is written, today will be marked as the moment the front lines moved from the Persian Gulf directly into the American living room. The question we have to answer before the sun sets is whether our infrastructure can survive a siege that moves at the speed of light, or if we are already living through the opening minutes of a permanent blackout. While the American Midwest is currently scrambling to patch vulnerabilities, the proof of concept for this devastation occurred 72 hours ago in the Israeli port city of Haifa. In what intelligence analysts are calling a masterclass in cyber-kinetic warfare, a sophisticated code injection successfully bypassed Israel's vaunted Iron Shield cyber defense system. The result was not a screen flickering or a website going down. Instead, the hackers utilized what are known as ghost commands. These are encrypted instructions that mirror legitimate administrative traffic, allowing the attackers to take control of industrial turbines at a major power substation. By the time the on-site engineers realized something was wrong, the turbines had been commanded to vibrate at frequencies that caused them to self-destruct. No alarms were triggered because the software reported everything was operating within normal parameters while the hardware was literally tearing itself apart. Subsequent forensic analysis by Unit 8200 has uncovered evidence linking these specific scripts directly to the IRGC's cyber electronic command. The sophistication of the Haifa breach suggests that this wasn't an opportunistic strike, but a long-dwell operation where the malware had been sitting quietly for years, waiting for the geopolitical green light. According to satellite imagery and local reports, the Haifa blackout lasted for nearly 18 hours, during which time the city's automated emergency services were paralyzed. This incident serves as a grim context anchor for the alerts we are seeing today in the United States. If the most cyber-secure nation on Earth can have its industrial heart stopped by a ghost in the machine, the vulnerabilities in the aging U.S. electrical grid are no longer theoretical. They are an active invitation for disaster. To understand how a nation-state like Iran can bring a superpower to its knees without firing a single missile, we have to look at the digital lockpick known as the zero-day. In the world of cybersecurity, a zero-day is a vulnerability in a piece of software that is known to the hackers but completely unknown to the software's creator. This means the developer has exactly 0 days to fix it before it can be exploited. These vulnerabilities are the most valuable weapons in the modern Iranian arsenal, often purchased on the dark web or discovered through massive, AI-driven fuzzing campaigns. Once a zero-day is identified, the attackers don't usually kick down the front door. Instead, they use supply chain poisoning. They find a trusted secondary piece of software, perhaps a simple update for a thermostat or a printer driver, and they hide their malware inside a legitimate update. Once inside the system, the malware often takes the form of a logic bomb. This is a piece of code that sits dormant, doing absolutely nothing, for months or even years. It only activates when a specific if/then trigger is met, such as a specific date, a command from a remote server, or even a specific headline appearing on a news site. This is why the air gap myth is so dangerous. Many people believe that as long as a critical system is unplugged from the internet, it is safe. However, history shows that hackers can bridge these gaps using USB rubber ducky attacks, physical drives left in parking lots for curious employees to pick up, or even sophisticated radio frequency signals that can jump across physical space to communicate with infected hardware. We are seeing a convergence where the digital script becomes a physical bullet, capable of turning the machines we rely on into weapons against us. The current crisis was not unheralded. In late 2025, a document now known as the Descent Cable was leaked from within the Department of Energy, signed by 38 retired generals and intelligence officials. This memo explicitly warned that the U.S. electrical grid was catastrophically vulnerable to the exact type of programmable logic controller, or PLC, attacks we are witnessing today. The memo highlighted that the DOE had largely ignored a 2024 vulnerability report that detailed how Iranian actors had already mapped the backdoors of over 4,000 power substations across the eastern seaboard. This represents a staggering institutional failure, where the pursuit of efficiency and smart grid connectivity was prioritized over basic national security redundancies. When we talk about a digital Pearl Harbor, it is easy to get lost in the metaphor, but the reality is a silent, terrifying mental movie. Imagine a city where, in a single second, every traffic light turns green, hospital respirators stop mid-breath because the backup generators failed to receive their start command, and the pumps that move sewage away from homes simply cease to function. There is no explosion, no smoke, and no immediate sound other than the sudden absence of the hum of modern life. Official readouts from the 2024 report suggested that a coordinated strike on just 9 key substations could plunge the entire United States into a blackout lasting 18 months. Despite these warnings, the upgrades to the PLCs were delayed due to budgetary infighting, leaving the door wide open for the IRGC to walk in and turn out the lights. As if the threat to the power grid weren't enough, we must now address the toxin trigger. In a chilling escalation, Iranian-linked hackers successfully breached the water system in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. This wasn't just about shutting off the water. It was about the chemical composition of what people drink. By gaining access to the control systems that regulate the addition of chemicals like chlorine and fluoride, the attackers attempted to manipulate the dosage to toxic levels. This is what Unit 8200, Israel's elite signals intelligence wing, has been warning about regarding the group cyber-kinetic. Their findings indicate that the goal is no longer just disruption, but the creation of kinetic cyber convergence, where a hack results in mass casualties in the physical world. This transition from pixels on a screen to poison in the pipes represents a fundamental shift in the nature of the Iran war. It is the realization of the threat that a hack can become a physical bullet in your home. When you turn on your faucet, you are trusting a digital handshake between a sensor and a pump miles away. If that handshake is intercepted by a hostile actor in Tehran, your most basic necessity becomes a delivery system for a weapon of war. This is the hidden truth of the current conflict. The battlefield is not just a desert in the Middle East. It is the infrastructure of the American suburb. The cyber-kinetic have demonstrated that they can reach across the globe and touch the very things we take for granted, proving that in 2026, there is no such thing as a local problem. Beyond the physical infrastructure, the Iranian cyber siege has a massive financial component designed to freeze the very gears of Western capitalism. Intelligence sources close to the Treasury Department have flagged a concentrated effort by Iranian actors to target SWIFT alternatives and secondary banking ledgers. The goal is a ledger wipe, the deletion of account balances and transaction histories that would effectively freeze liquidity and trigger a global bank run. This isn't just Iran acting alone, however. Financial flows suggest a deepening China handshake, with high-speed fiber lines now directly connecting Tehran and Shanghai. This digital Silk Road provides Iranian hackers with a level of anonymity and bandwidth they never had before, allowing them to route their attacks through Chinese servers to complicate attribution and retaliation. This partnership serves as an AI multiplier. While Iran provides the intent and the localized intelligence, Beijing provides the raw processing power. Chinese-developed AI models are now being used to scan Western infrastructure for vulnerabilities at 1,000 times the speed of a human hacker. According to leaked documents, this synergy has already allowed Iran to identify soft targets in the U.S. regional banking sector that were previously considered too obscure to be at risk. The implications are global. If the integrity of the $2.3 trillion in daily digital transactions is called into question, the entire Western economic model could collapse before a single shot is fired. The Beijing-Tehran axis is effectively building a parallel digital reality where they hold the keys to the world's wealth, leaving the U.S. and Israel to fight a defensive war on a battlefield they no longer fully control. We have now reached the tipping point where the shadow war breaks out into total, unrestrained conflict. In response to the persistent attacks on civilian infrastructure, U.S. Cyber Command has reportedly activated Olympic Games 2.0. This is not a defensive patch. It is a direct, devastating counterstrike on Iran's domestic power distribution and the centrifuge controllers at the nation's nuclear facility. Simultaneously, Israel has deployed a variant of the Nitro Zeus program, a capability designed to instantly disable Iranian cell towers, radio stations, and satellite links, effectively blinding the regime's command and control. However, this escalation carries a catastrophic risk known as the blowback loop. Military posture has shifted to prepare for what is known as Option 9. This is Iran's automated dead man's switch. If the Iranian leadership perceives that their regime is about to be decapitated or their infrastructure permanently disabled, Option 9 triggers the release of all remaining malware, including wiper, viruses, and logic bombs, into Western civilian infrastructure simultaneously. It is the digital equivalent of a nuclear launch. Analysis of a leaked FEMA document suggests the government is already preparing for a 30-day digital dark age in the event Option 9 is activated. This would mean a total suspension of the internet, cellular networks, and electronic payments across North America. We are currently staring down the barrel of a situation where a successful U.S. strike against Iran could be the very thing that triggers the collapse of the American grid. It is the ultimate lose-lose scenario in the age of cyber warfare. As we look at what could happen next, we have to move past the geopolitical theater and look at the reality of the 72-hour survival window. According to emergency management experts, the first 3 days of a grid-down scenario are the most critical. This is the period when the online assumptions of our society, that food will be on the shelves, that gas will be in the pumps, and that the police will answer the phone, begin to dissolve. If the digital dark age predicted by FEMA becomes a reality, you will need to transition from a digital lifestyle to a battlefield reality in a matter of hours. This isn't about being a prepper in the traditional sense. It's about basic civilizational resilience. Realistic scenarios for the next few weeks include a series of rolling, tactical blackouts as the U.S. attempts to isolate infected portions of the grid, which will lead to significant supply chain delays and a surge in the price of basic goods. The survival blueprint for ordinary people involves securing analog backups for everything: physical cache, paper maps, and local mesh networks that don't rely on the global internet. The non-digital lifestyle, once a niche choice, may soon become a mandatory survival strategy. How is this story being covered where you live right now? Have you seen any unusual disruptions in your local services or banking apps in the last 48 hours? We are moving into an era where the most important thing you own might be the one thing that can't be hacked. The digital tripwire has been pulled, and the signal is clear. We are no longer waiting for the cyber war to begin. We are already several chapters into the conflict. The integration of our lives with the digital world has created a level of convenience that is now being used as a weapon of mass disruption. As the U.S. and Israel move forward with Olympic Games 2.0 and Iran prepares to execute its Option 9 dead man's switch, the margin for error has vanished. Which of the scenarios we discussed do you consider most likely to happen in the next month? A total digital dark age, or a series of contained, localized strikes. Are you already seeing price increases or travel warnings that seem linked to these infrastructure concerns in your area? The information we have discussed today suggests that the silence of the grid is a far greater threat than the noise of a missile. It is vital to stay informed and prepared, as the speed of these developments often outpaces traditional news cycles. We will continue to track the thermal telemetry and the movement of these hacking collectives as this crisis unfolds. The lights are still on for now. Make sure you're ready for when they aren't. We'll continue tracking this situation. See you in the next update.